The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the producers and the individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff of the Sun Prairie Media Center, its members or underwriters, the board members of the Media Center Commission, Charter Communications, TDS Telecom, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Ho, 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 and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Santa Claus.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
And the man seated next to me, he still wants a plane that loops the loop. His name is Mike Roth.
I had one once.
Yeah?
And once you go loop to loop, you never go back. Yep, I request every time I'm on a plane, they never do it. And just to let you know, if you're watching this is a red and green sweater.
Very festive.
It's not Freddy Krueger.
I thought it was. I don't know. Some people celebrate holidays their own way.
Yep. With murder.
Murder. So this week, we have a very packed full show because this festive season is full of movies.
Oh, yeah.
Some good, some bad, maybe some in the middle. We're going to find out in a minute. Let's get started right away with our streaming spotlight this week. This week's streaming spotlight is a movie from director Alfonso Cuarón. It is a movie called Roma. It is found on Netflix, stars Yelida Aparicio as Cleo. The movie is a year in the life of Cleo, set during 1970, 1971. She is a housekeeper for a family in Mexico City. Her mother, and a friend, they're all housekeepers for this family. And it's a very personal story about this girl and the things that she goes through with this family and goes through personally in her off hours. It's a movie that is probably Cuarón's most personal film. It feels like this was, by his age and things that were in this, it feels like this was very much drawn from his life experience as a kid. Cleo goes through a lot. I mean, pregnancy, heartbreak, all kinds of things. And there's moments in this movie where it's just kind of quiet and just kind of, you're just watching things. And the biggest thing about this movie is, I think for my money, it's the most beautiful film that I've seen this year.
That's what
It is gorgeous.
I'm taking a look at the trailer right here, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. And
everything is scenic and just beautiful. And there's many, many shots like the one we're seeing right now where the camera is just following along. And it's a long, uncut scene as he's just taking us on a journey with him. And you're watching things rather than being, cutting back and forth.
Yeah, it looks like he's doing these sweeping it looks amazing.
Because there's a lot of huge landscape shots, but there's also small, intimate moments that are still equally as beautiful as a huge landscape. It's all gorgeous. And a lot of it feels a lot like his movie that we love and we've talked about recently, Children of Men, and just how it deals with how humanity and how we relate to each other. And Cleo is a character who sometimes, because of her role as a housekeeper, is almost looked as a forgotten person in the world because she doesn't really have the status, And it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous movie. It's a film that I would not be surprised if it's nominated for Best Picture. It would be wild to have a Netflix movie win Best Picture.
I thought the Academy was against
that.
Well,
the loophole is they released it into a few theaters. And there you go. Now, we had Manchester by the Sea a couple years ago that won Best Supporting Actor and some things like that. That was an Amazon movie. And we've had documentaries win and things like that. But the Best Picture, I think it would take the Academy, they'd have to swallow some pride to go, it's different. But this is a prestige filmmaker with Alfonso Cuarón. But saying all that, I absolutely love this movie. Like I said, the beauty of it is worth watching, even if you don't like subtitles, just sit and watch it go by because it's gorgeous. And for me, I give it 5 stars. It's one of the best movies that I have seen this year.
I am going to have to check that out.
Yes, I think everyone should.
I say that a lot when you. I really need to catch up on my streaming.
There's plenty of time. You got nothing else going on.
Yeah, we got the holiday season.
There you go. Anyways, let's move into what we have on the marquee, sir. And what do you have for
Well,
us?
this is one of the movies that I was really looking forward to last year when we were picking our next 10.
Yeah.
And Mortal Engines. It was produced by.
Screenplay and produced by Peter Jackson.
Yeah, but the director is Christian Rivers, and we have Hera Hilmar playing Hester Shaw. She is a woman bent on vengeance. There is a man who destroyed her family, killed her mother, and she needs to get rid of this person. Hugo Weaving plays Thaddeus Valentine. He is the person who did the killing. On the surface, everybody sees a really nice, helpful guy. He's actually very evil. Get to the heart. Anybody seeing the trailer? Obviously, more is going on. This is definitely a whole new world that people are not used to, of cities now having to travel and feed off of other cities in order to survive. I think this world is actually quite interesting and imaginative. The problem it had with me is they have a lot of story in here, and they had zero time to back up any of these stories. We had the story of vengeance. We had a story of a father who is not who he is. We have another story of a father who is a monster who ends up being a father. We have political problems. We also have this huge world that we're trying to explain. We're shoving it all in a 2-hour, and it just felt overwhelming, way overwhelming. This is not a light, happy movie.
No.
This is totally dark, very action-packed, a lot of story, but no storytelling skills.
And that's, I think that a big problem is that Christian Rivers, the director, he's an art direction guy. He focuses on visuals. And so you'd think, oh, well, you got Peter Jackson working on this.
Yeah.
But there's a huge hole in here of just the characters and how they interact. And I thought it was interesting. There's a lot of things in the setup. Like, I think the opening shots are unfortunately, the best shots in the movie, is you're introducing these cities that are on wheels and these cities that can break apart when they're fleeing. And New London being this thing that's like the capital city, and introducing this character who's an archivist, and introducing, like, 19th century technology as currency.
Yeah.
And old weapons are currency. And I like this guy who's archiving these old things. I'm like, these are interesting ideas. And then it just was a mishmash after about 30 minutes in. They're trying to throw too many things, and suddenly Hugo Weaving's like going over the top with his character. I mean, Hugo Weaving gets the great line of "prepare to ingest." Like, oh, what happened, Hugo?
I kind of liked how they played on some words like that, where it sounded really lame, but at the same time, it was kind of perfect because that's what these cities were doing. They were swallowing other cities completely. Robert Sheehan, he plays that Tom Natsworthy, the guy who did all the archiving. I really do like seeing him. I liked him in a series, British series called, and it escapes me. But anyways, I loved him ever since then, and I like seeing all
like seeing him. It's just, it felt to me like you got robots adopting orphans. You got all this stuff going on, and it felt like the steampunk genre wasn't enough to keep me interested in here. Cities that run on coal, and isn't this crazy? And what shocked me was that the visuals didn't impress me enough.
Yeah.
And that was like, whoa! I was going in expecting these visuals to be kind of mind blowing, and they weren't. And the story felt bland, and the characters felt bland to me. And unfortunately, to me, the movie felt a little like Jupiter Ascending.
Yep.
And it also felt like every young adult drama where we have a young girl, she's the chosen one, and she's going to save society. And then the father figure, the Snow or whatever character you want to have, who's the big guy in charge, who's also the bad guy, he's going to try and keep her down, and she's the only one that can fix it. Like, oh, I've seen this play out many, many times. And it felt just kind of like blah writing to me.
I think Hugo Weaving, he could have pulled off something better.
Yeah.
If he toned it down a little bit, I did like how he really did feel like a nice guy, unlike the other teen drama movies that are out there where they're bad all the way through and you see it right away.
Right.
I think if this was a series where they concentrated on all these mini stories and expanded on them, it would have been a lot better. This needed more story. It really needed to be less chaotic.
Yeah, it was chaotic is a great word for it. That's exactly what it was.
Unfortunately, what I was looking forward to ended up kind of failing because I saw the potential, but it wasn't enjoyable.
Okay. What did you end up giving this?
I gave it a 2.5. It's average review. I would like other people to like it, but I understand why it won't, and therefore these stories will never get expanded on.
Yeah, I really didn't like this movie.
I kind of figured.
I gave this movie 1 star.
Oh.
And it's probably just based off of Hugo Weaving and a couple of small things, but this isn't even the best Peter Jackson film that came out this week. He had an amazing documentary called They Shall Not Grow Old, which took 100-year-old footage of World War I and made it look like it was shot yesterday.
Oh.
That was a 5-star movie. This movie was garbage. It felt like Jupiter Ascending to me, and that was not good either. But
yeah,
it's unfortunate because I was looking forward to it a little bit, and I was left very disappointed. This will be on a disappointment list at the end of this year.
it kind of stinks when a top 10 movie flails like this for me.
Absolutely. The next movie we have is the newest film from director and star Clint Eastwood. It is The Mule. Stars Clint Eastwood as a man named Earl Stone. Earl is a horticulturist who, stay with me, his love for his work and his plants has kept him on the road, away from his family for decades. He's neglected his family for his daylilies and such. He's missed his daughter's wedding. He's missed his granddaughter's, baptisms, all these things, and recitals, and he's completely estranged from his family now, other than his granddaughter, played by Tessa Farmiga. His daughter is played by Allison Eastwood, his own daughter. A little nepotism in this movie, but and his daughter wants nothing to do with him. His ex-wife, played by Diane Wiest, wants nothing to do with him. And so, lucky for him, he wants to make things right. He wants to help his granddaughter out with her wedding to try and get back in the good graces. He doesn't know how, but thankfully, he's approached by a guy out of nowhere who wants him to be a drug mule for the cartel. And so, 172-year-old Clint Eastwood is now moving increasingly larger loads of cocaine across the country for the Mexican cartel.
How does this help him get closer to
Well,
his
because
family?
he gets money, and then he can use the money to buy things for his family.
Oh, okay.
Money solves everything.
There we go.
Meanwhile, the feds are after him. 2 feds in particular, played by Bradley Cooper and Michael Pena, are after this guy. Whoever this mule is, they're after him. Throughout this, there are some massive logic holes because he's driving. The thing is, he's driving this black pickup truck, and the feds start to figure out. They have a route. They have a guy who's telling them information. Right? They find out there's a guy in a black pickup truck, and black pickup trucks starting getting pulled over along this route, left and right. And the cartel knows this. They're one of the guys in the cartel goes, "Look at this. They're pulling over all these black trucks." You think they tell Clint Eastwood? No. He's hauling hundreds of pounds of cocaine for the hundreds of kilos. They don't tell him, maybe we should switch vehicles. No, they let him go. There's a moment where he's in a parking lot of a motel with Bradley Cooper, the federal agent. His truck is in the parking lot. Bradley Cooper never says, hey, there's a black pickup truck right here in the parking lot. Maybe we should check that one out. Nope. No, just keep going, guy. It's horribly frustrating.
I find the plot of, in order to get closer to your family, let's be on the road and sell drugs.
That's how you do it.
Weird.
There's some huge issues. This is a very familiar character for Clint Eastwood, though. I mean, it kind of feels like he took Gran Turismo guy and brought him in here. It's weird because really the only character and only relationship that has any depth to them is Clint Eastwood's character and Diane Wiest, his ex-wife. Everyone else, daughter, granddaughter, friends, feds, everyone else. Andy Garcia is the cartel boss. He's kind of there, but he's just a 2-dimensional character. Everyone in this is just kind of written like, and then I need somebody to do that, and then I need somebody to do that, and I got to make sure that my character is the one who has any kind of depth to him. It's kind of frustrating. It felt a lot like recycled material that I've seen before of a cartel moving and Clint Eastwood just being grumpy and crotchety. There's some good moments. Bradley Cooper and Michael Pena are a lot of fun. Like I would I'd watch a buddy cop comedy with those guys. because they're really good.
Yeah, that would work.
Unfortunately, they were just kind of given enough material to serve his character rather than their own characters. And that was kind of frustrating. And so I think, what did I give this thing? Can you look on the screen? Did I give it 2 stars?
Gave it 2.5.
2.5 stars.
It was a very average movie.
It was a very average movie. And I think Clint Eastwood needs to just kind of hang it up.
All right.
It was interesting. The movie opened with Clint Eastwood, and then it's like cut to 12 years later. I'm like, I don't think this character has 12 more years in him. He's 147 years old.
Wow.
Anyways, moving on, because we have a bunch of movies to talk about. What do you have for us?
Let's talk about some good stuff. How
Okay.
about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse? This is another one of my top 10 movies that I was really looking forward to. Directed by Bob Parsetti and Peter Ramsey. We finally introduce a non-Peter Parker Spider-Man. We have Miles Morales. Miles Morales. He plays the new Spider-Man. They're in Nueva York. This is an alternate dimension when a corporation run by Kingpin, he needs to bring back his family. His family's dead, but he's going to grab the exact same family from a different dimension. And as he's breaking through this dimension, he splits 5 dimensions, all kind of come to one. Yeah. All the Spider-Mans are dwelling in one dimension, and they have to stop Kingpin from tearing apart their universes. So we have Spider-Man meeting up with Spider-Gwen, which is Gwen Stacy. We have another Peter Parker who wasn't as successful in life. We have Peter Porker, which is a pig, and we have Spider Noir.
Yes.
And we have another one that is Japanese. Type of robot style.
Yep.
And all these Spider-Mans are different than each other. They have to kind of work together in order to stop Kingpin. One of the things that makes this movie stand out from any other animated movie is the animation itself. It's really true to comic books. It's very enduring. There's a lot of color, and I love some of the minor little details. Like you watch this, and you can see the pin dots of all the ink like you would see in a comic book. Some of these shots were just amazing. They make your stomach drop, and that would be in 2D. I was fortunate to watch this in 3D, which also gives it another dimension that I thought was fantastic, because it really brought that comic book style out into your face a little bit and made it a little bit more noticeable. This is one of my favorite animated movies. Unfortunately, not my favorite one this year.
It's a great year for animation.
I would love to have seen this win something.
Yeah.
But I know that it's not, because there is a lot of good things on that list.
Yeah, I think that the animation style in this movie is the standout. It blew me away. And as far as just the specific style choices, I put this along with Kubo in my book as like taking a different direction from animation that we've seen before and doing something completely on your own. And it did, like you said, this made me feel like I was a kid flipping the pages in the comic book. I mean, there's great moments like when Miles finally gets his powers, he gets his own comic book cover, and just little things in here are great. And they were able to pull off something that a lot of other Spider-Man movies have struggled with, introducing a lot of characters and not making it feel muddled. They're introducing characters that the general public has no idea about.
Yep.
Spider Noir is not a popular character that anyone knows or cares about.
In one series, that's it.
And they're able to introduce these characters, have fun with them, you care about them, you know what they're all about. There's comedic elements. There's just everything about this movie. It feels like every choice they made was the perfect choice in my book. And I have trouble finding any fault in this movie. And I love that they introduced Miles Morales to the public and it worked.
Yeah.
That they've already announced their sequel. I've been saying I wanted Miles Morales when they did the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. Like, make it, God, we've had Peter Parker. Let's give us Miles Morales.
Yeah.
And they didn't, and I'm glad that this one worked, and I like that this is the universe they're going in. Some of the things are over the top. Kingpin is as big as a house.
Huge, yeah.
But it worked. I liked it. I like the voice work. I love Nicolas Cage as Spider Noir.
It worked out really well. I loved Spider-Gwen also.
Yes.
She is a fantastic character. If you ever want a good read in the comic book world, she's also a fantastic
I'm hoping that
one.
this introduces people to characters, that they go out and find them now. Like, I want to see, what is this, Spider-Ham? I got to find Peter Porker, and I want to watch more, read more about him.
And I kind of hope this inspires the other Marvel universe,
Yeah.
the one that's the huge cinematic one that we've been watching for over a decade. as, hey, we don't need these 60-year-old guys. We don't need these familiar faces anymore. The writing will take any character where you want it to go, and that's what this movie proved.
It's just gorgeous. There's a loving tribute to Stan Lee in here, of course. Really enjoyable stuff. What did you end up giving Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse?
I get a 4.5. It's a fantastic film.
It's really good. I was really dancing between two scores, and normally I go lower score. This week I went higher score. I gave it 5 stars. That's 2 this week.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
I'm trying to find something in my head. Like, what didn't I like? Why wouldn't it be 5? I couldn't find anything.
I think my only gripe on it is I read the SpiderVerse, and this was not that.
Okay, fair enough.
I wanted it to be more of a dimension hopping thing instead of once you go into another dimension, you're dead.
Yeah. Let's move on with our next movie we have on the marquee, sir. It is a film called The Favorite from director Yorgos Lanthimos. It stars Olivia Colman as Queen Anne. This is set in 1700s. She plays Queen Anne. This is kind of based on people, but not like actual events. And it stars Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz. Emma is a lady who is a former lady of an estate whose father kind of gambled away their fortune and their status. So she is forced to go and search out her cousin, played by Rachel Weisz, who is like the Queen's personal advisor and confidant, and she's looking for a job, just to do anything in her employ. The Queen Anne, is a bit of a mess. She's kind of used as a figurehead pawn by everyone around her, including Rachel Weisz's character. She's got health issues, some maybe mental issues, and she's definitely kind of used to get things done. Rachel Weisz is very domineering. Her character is very domineering. And the movie is kind of these two main leads kind of stabbing each other in the back. And everything is about trying to curry favor with the Queen to kind of get the inside. And that's kind of with everyone. A rivalry for Queen Anne's affections is basically the gist of this movie. The war with France is afoot, and there's a lot going on with that. You also have Nicholas Hoult, who is a sniveling politician who is also trying to gain favor and influence for his cause of peace and all that, but he kind of doesn't know how to do it because he's kind of incompetent. And that's the thing, is it's interesting. This movie is it's 3 strong female leads. And the males in this are both kind of bumbling and just don't know how to go about doing it, and they're used.
There's a role that all the men have, and that's very deliberate. They're all wearing the powdered wigs. They're all dandies. They're all silly, goofy little guys that are dancing around in the background. And I think that is very important to this movie because you really want to concentrate on these 3 actresses. This is some of the best acting I've seen all year. And the writing for these characters was amazing. And the way they weaved in and out. There's times where you would look at Lady Sarah and you're like, oh, she's the villain. And you feel sorry for Abigail. And then later on, you're like, no, Abigail's the one who's manipulating. And the entire time, you're looking at the Queen as this useless, or not useless, but a pawn that you feel sorry for because her emotions are being torn in between these 2 women who are playing against each other. And then at the end, you're kind of wondering again. And it's great. This is a fantastic movie.
And now, I mean, this is a tough thing to pull off. It is a dark comedy period piece. Like Dangerous Liaisons with weird, awkward comedy put into it. And Yorgos Lanthimos, as a filmmaker, always makes these really weird movies. A couple years ago, he had The Lobster with Rachel Weisz and Colin Farrell. Very weird movie about people, you get turned into an animal when you die. And it's a strange movie. And he finds ways to get weird awkward comedic elements into his movies. And this is no different. This takes you on a weird journey. And you're never quite, like you said, you're never quite sure where it's going. I also like that the use of music in this movie. The strings are powerful. There's powerful music in the background going on. It's at key moments. And the movement of the characters their motivations are always on the move. You're never quite certain who's doing what.
And some of the movements, they update it to, I think, kind of try to get the audience into liking it a little bit more. Like in the dance scenes, it seems like it's almost like breakdancing along with classic.
It's comedic though when they all like, it is. That seems off.
That is a little off.
I think this has amazing performances. And Rachel Weisz especially was domineering in this. I loved it.
And the set was also fantastic. Those kitchen scenes where you see the fireplace, which is huge, and you see this billowing burn mark going up many stories, and you're just thinking of what the conditions were in that. It's
gorgeous.
Fantastic.
What did you end up giving the favorite?
I gave it a 4.5. It is a great movie. Run out and see it.
I agreed. I gave it 4.5 stars as well. It's one of the better movies of this year. It's well worth checking out in this busy season of movies.
And I'm sure we're going to see those actresses' names at the Academy.
Absolutely. What is our last movie on the marquee, sir?
Well, Aquaman. We have the next installment in the DC franchise where Jason Momoa is playing Arthur, or Aquaman as we all know him. This is the origin story of Aquaman, how his mother was a queen of Atlantis and how his dad was a lighthouse keeper. And then he goes through a series of things where the king of Patrick, played by Patrick Wilson, he wants to have a war against the surface dwellers for all the pollution and bad things that they do to the ocean. It feels weird. He needs to have all the support of the kingdoms. That way he could be the ocean master. And then we were throwing in a guy named Black Manta, which had a, I thought, laughable portrayal of a son and father.
Aquaman's greatest villain, and he is
useless.
Just wasted in this movie.
Completely wasted.
Yes.
Now, you're going to feel this already from my description. I did not like this movie. This movie kind of makes me a little angry because the comic book series is better than this. This felt more like a Tomb Raider, where he had to find silly little things in order to do something else, and they went to silly little places, and everything they did was over dramatic. There was a part where they had to go to a machinery out in the desert. This is one of many problems I had with this movie. And all they figured out this machine needed was water, because it used to be a waterish type land, and that's how the machine works. So she uses all her magic to pour out one little pebble of sweat, and it makes this whole machine works. And it's a big, long scene of a lot of CG and stuff, and later on, Aquaman makes an alternate suggestion, but really anything else. You could have spit on it. You could have just wiped it, but you had to have this huge cinematic sequence of pulling out a drop, not even a drop of sweat to get this. And this is the whole movie. Everything is way overdone. It's never subtle, and all these huge action scenes are separated by some terrible dialogue that luckily is very short.
The dialogue is very cringy. For me, some of it was so bad it's good dialogue because it's really bad.
Yeah.
The origin story they're telling, though, is if you watch Thor, that's your origin story.
Yeah.
He's got a king dad. He's got a stepbrother who they don't agree. He's got a mother, and he's got to try and meld kingdoms and all. It's very much the Thor storyline. I call this Wet Thor.
They even had the same kind of Thor soundtrack as Ragnarok.
It felt long and unevenly paced to me. They took Black Manta, who's one of his best villains, made him secondary, really wasted him, made him look like a punk. I didn't like that. It was, I think, in its worst moments, this movie was the height of computer-created characters just smashing into each other on screen, just watching drawings fight drawings.
Yeah.
The only caveat I have, though, is I actually like Jason Momoa in this. I haven't liked Jason Momoa in anything else I've seen him ever in. And his charisma was on screen for me. I enjoyed him. I didn't enjoy a lot of what was going on around him, but I think he's all right.
I think I would have liked him better if they didn't feed him such terrible lines. There's a couple of scenes he was in that I thought he was humorous. Yeah. And he's built himself out to look really impressive on the screen. But some of potty humor and stuff was just falling short because everything else was too stupid about this movie.
Yeah, I think there's some good chunks in here, in my opinion. It just felt too long. Not every movie needs to be 2 hours and 15 minutes. It feels like every movie I see these days is over 2 hours. Yeah. It doesn't have to be. This movie felt like it was lagging in the middle. I think it was just up and down and kind of all over the place. What did you end up giving Aquaman?
I gave it a 1.5.
Yeesh.
Yeah.
That's not good.
I really did not like this movie.
That's not good.
I almost went down to 1.
Oof. I give it 3. I don't feel great about 3. I have a feeling it'll sink down to 2.5 in a little bit, but it's not great. So Aquaman is not one of the better DC movies. Real quickly, let's take a look at what is coming soon. Okay. In a week, we are going to have Stan and Ollie, the Laurel and Hardy movie. We'll also be, we'll have Holmes and Watson, we'll have Vice and Destroyer. All of these things will be coming soon. Before we leave you, we have so many movies, we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
Before we leave you, we have to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, The Palace. Thank you for sponsoring our program. Next week, we're going to be talking about Mary Poppins, Welcome to Marwen, Bumblebee, who knows what else. But until that time, I'm Jameson.
I'm Mike Roth.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.